What's going on, people? Okay, so story time, NSG style. I wanted to share with you guys a story, the same story from two different perspectives. And the reason why I wanted to share that is because one of the things that I firmly believe in is the power of transforming your thinking and how it helps to transform the way that you live and experience life. So I'm going to share the story of the passing of my mom. And so this person who I call my mother is not my birth mother. She's my mom in every other way. She's the person who I feel kept me alive. And so when I think about her life, one of the things that I used to always think about was as she started to grow older and get sick, she had like a lot of health issues. I used to always say, if she dies, I'm done. I'm falling apart. That is it. And it was a thing that I constantly said. And so I used to feel the pressure of it when she became more ill and different sicknesses and diseases started to pile on. All right, so trying to keep this story short. When she passed, she had Alzheimer's and cancer. She had Alzheimer's first. She had a couple of other things going on. She had Alzheimer's first. And taking care of a person with Alzheimer's can be a challenge. She couldn't remember a lot of things, of course. She had a lot of health concerns that she needed to keep up with, and home health aides trying to support her, and she became really the soundtrack of the neighborhood always drops by. She needed a lot of assistance with just knowing and understanding why she had to do certain things. Her temperament, this used to be a praying woman. Let me tell you something, this was a God-fearing sweetheart, okay? Her temperament became real short and her mouth became 80 shades of crazy towards the end of her life. And so that was something that we were dealing with. Then when she received the cancer diagnosis, it was already in its later stages. Stage 4 is when it was she was diagnosed. And so having Alzheimer's was tough on top of that. So now here's where I introduce the story from two different perspectives. The first one is going to be how we can look at things from a negative perspective, and then I'm going to offer up how I view things. So with her having Alzheimer's and then receiving the diagnosis of cancer, it was tough in that I had to constantly remind her that she had cancer. And because of the Alzheimer's, her mood was hard to regulate. So she became overly, whatever it was, overly emotional and sensitive. So if she was sad, it was like on 20. If she was angry, it was on 20. Whatever she was feeling, it was really intense. And so having to tell her time and time again when we needed to make medical decisions that she had cancer, and reminding her of the appointments that she had and where we were at this current point was hard. And on the one hand, I could have looked at it as, God, why did you do this? This is not what I signed up for. In the middle of all of that happening, I was still dealing with my own life problems, and I'm like, I can't take her dying. Like, this is just not gonna happen to me. What the hell? Having her feel this way, I'm just like, who does this? You know, who makes someone, who gives someone Alzheimer's and then turns around and gives them a cancer diagnosis? How does someone live like that? Like, that's too much. And this is a person who has prayed hard her whole life. Like, this is like the Christian of all Christians in my life. And so when she passed, I was away on vacation. I had prolonged my vacation for about a year, about 10 months. I had prolonged my vacation for several months because we were dealing with different aspects of her health, and I didn't want to go because I felt like I might have to. She lived in Florida and I live in New York, and I was constantly aware of what was happening and speaking with the doctors. And I was like, I don't know when I'm going to have to go out to Florida, so I want to stay here. I don't want to be out of the country and have to deal with all that. Let me stay local. Finally, we had things settled to where her appointment wasn't going to happen until I came back. The doctors were saying, listen, this is what we're dealing with at stage 4. All we can do is give her radiation. She did not want chemo and radiation. They were saying she needed to have both. That was another thing that could have had me through the roof. It could have had me pissed off and angry at the system and angry at God, and having to repeat to her multiple times that this is what her body was getting ready to go through, and dealing with her sadness and her tears could have really had me in a funk, could have really sent me in a seriously deep depression, or deep denial of what I was dealing with and feeling, and then I would have crashed afterwards. So I was away when she passed, and how I ended up going away was because all of the appointments were already set up. They were not going to take her to do anything until the 2 days after I was coming back, and I was going to fly straight into Miami and go take care of her and be there with her for the week. So that was the intended plan. The last day of my trip, I received a phone call. She didn't make it. And so I was devastated, to say the least. And I could have been angry, and I could have let my last day gone to hell, and I could have just walked around in this haze of a funk, having to come back the next day and immediately start funeral planning as soon as I made it back to New York, could have sent me down a really deep, dark depression. The days, weeks, months, years after her passing could have had me feeling really low, because this was the person who I called my lifeline. Like, this was the nickname that I had for her, my lifeline, because she kept me, her prayers and her conversations and her presence kept me alive. And I mean, when I thought about contemplating suicide, she found some words to always say to let me know she was there and that I was worthy of living. So it could have sent me down this dark path. Here is the story from the alternate perspective. And this is how I viewed it. And thank goodness that I had been working on myself all these years and really knew the power of transformational thinking and the impact of our thoughts and what it does in our lives. Here is what I saw instead. I saw, right? And this is not something that I believe is based on religion or what have you. It's just, for me, that's what it is. I saw a person who had a diagnosis of Alzheimer's for several years prior as a gift when she received her cancer diagnosis, because it allowed me the space and the time to work without dealing with the constant phone calls and the crying and the worry that would have happened if she did not have her diagnosis of Alzheimer's. She was able to find happiness and laughter during some of the conversations because she didn't remember that she had a terminal illness. And so I still had those moments with her because I had already learned to live with her Alzheimer's, and we had found our balance. So I had months of her still in the same way that I remembered her. And so the times when I needed to remind her of her diagnosis didn't hit me as hard, because most of the time I was able to handle her medical decisions without having to go back and ask her. These are things that we prepped for. And so I was grateful for that. When it was getting worse and we found out that she was going to have radiation and chemo, the conversations, knowing that she didn't want it, it was still the thing of, I had her blessing to make the best decision for her care. And so I was able to plan and have conversations with family and doctors to help do that without the extra addition of her, her varying emotions in the situation. When I went away on vacation, there was a peace and a calm that came over me. When I say the decision for me to go away, I prolonged several times over that year. When I finally agreed to go, it was at a moment where I was super stressed out, and I was feeling like if I didn't find something to help clear my head and regroup and recenter, I don't know if I would have been able to continue on with the rest of what I had to do. And so I made that decision on prayer and self-awareness. Like, I really did a deep scan of where my head was at, and I just said, okay, I'm gonna go away. And so I think about the fact that when I went away, she passed. I could have been hurt and felt guilty. There is no guilt that I feel, because it was almost like God was like, listen, I need you to take care of you, because I'm going to take her out of her suffering in this. And so it happened on my last day. I had the freedom to enjoy the trip while getting updates on her. By this time, she wasn't able to speak. Like, it had gotten really bad, so she wasn't able to speak much. I would talk to her on the phone. I could hear her, whatever her emotional state was. If she was happy, there were different noises she made. If she was sad or crying, I could tell that. It was just that in those days while I was away, it was peace. She was okay. And so when she passed in the night. And when I came back, the funeral planning, it was just, I knew there was this knowing, when finding her dress to bury her in, there was a knowing that came over me, and it just flowed with ease. Asking for support for different things, it was just this flow of support and assistance that came. It was like the universe had granted me this amazing gift. So instead of me focusing on the fact that my mother, my lifeline, was gone, I was able to focus on the fact that this beautiful woman blessed my life for 37 years. And now I get to take care of her one last time by making sure that this funeral goes off in a way that I feel she would approve. And so when I look at myself 2 years later after her passing, and I think about transformational thinking and perspectives and the power, I know that if I wasn't aware of this, if I hadn't started doing work on myself to see things in my life differently, I wouldn't be able to share this kind of story with you. I wouldn't be able to manage life in the way that I do. There is a peace that comes when you shift the way that you think. You have the power to transform your thinking. You have the power to own what it is that you see and how things impact you in life, right? You may not have the power to control what happens. The lasting impact is all on you. And I hope that this story of the alternate perspectives helped you to see that there are multiple ways that you can look at a situation, and the ways that you look at it will definitely impact your life. And so I can share this with a heavy heart because it's my mom that passed, and yet I share this with so much love and peace in my heart, and hope for whoever that's watching this video will understand how important it is that you take ownership of how things impact you, how you view it, and what you do after. All right, folks, comment whenever you watch this, share this, let me know your thoughts. If you want to talk more, if you're going through your own transformational journey and you want some support, because when I say it can be hard to shift your perspective when you're so used to handling business and controlling things on your own, it can be a challenge. Let go, see the positive in it, know that everything is working for your good. Everything. Her passing with Alzheimer's and stage 4 cancer worked for my good, because it was the catalyst to me seeing that with positive mindset, I could get through anything. And so my hope in sharing this story again is that it inspires you to take situations in your life and want to see them differently. All right, folks, so that's my Saturday night share. My hope and my wish for all of you guys. Comment, let me know what you thought. Share this video with others. Of course, it's going to stay on live for a little while. So have a great Saturday evening. Wherever you may be, have a great Saturday. Bye, folks.